Hello and welcome to another AQA GCSE Health and the People video tutorial. Today's video tutorial is titled Why were Galen and Hippocrates' ancient medical discoveries important to the medieval world? To start with, I'd like to look at the following medieval source. This is source A, which was written by a Muslim doctor called Osama ibn Mundik. Most of his works were meant to be a book of examples which to draw lessons from about the differences between the medieval Muslim Eastern medicine and Christian Western medicine. This is what it says. They brought to me a knight with a sore on his leg, and a woman who was feeble-minded. To the knight I applied a small poultice, an ointment or cream to heal a wound, and the woman I put on a diet to turn her humour wet. Medieval society believed in four humours, the fluid in the body, an imbalance would cause illness. Then a French doctor came and said, "This man knows nothing about treating them." He then said, "Bring me a sharp axe." Then the doctor laid the leg of the knight on a block of wood and told a man to cut off the leg with the axe, upon which the marrow flowed out and the patient died on the spot. He then examined the woman and said, "There is a devil in her head." He therefore took a razor, made a deep shaped cut on her head, peeled away the skin until the bone of the skull was exposed, and rubbed it with salt. The woman also died instantly. Now, thinking about this source, I would like you to pause the video and write your answer to 3 questions. What on earth is going on in this source? Would you have wanted to be cured by the French doctor? Explain your answer. This source was written by an Islamic doctor. What was his attitude towards Western medicine, summarized in this source? So, what did you write? Well, hopefully, you noted in this source, we see a French doctor doing a terrible job at curing a woman and a knight. The knight having had a form of amputation, and the woman having an incision made into her head to release the devil inside. Now, certainly I would not want to be treated by this French doctor, as he uses amputation without any form of pain relief. Yes, the man would have been wide awake when his leg was being chopped off by the axe, the woman equally when the incision was made to her head. And what he believed causes the illness for both patients was completely bogus. It, in fact, causes both the patients to die rather than be cured. So what does this source teach us? Well, the Islamic doctor in this instance is critical of Western medicine, which was not as advanced as Islamic medieval medicine. He applies an ointment to the knight and suggests a change of diet to improve the wound, which would have had probably more favourable outcome than what we've just seen. But what this source does teach us is how medieval medicine did not progress very quickly, because it was so reliant on ideas that had been in place for thousands of years, installed by Galen and Hippocrates, which is what will be the focus of today's video tutorial. Hopefully by the end of today's video tutorial, you'll be able to identify and describe the main ideas of Hippocrates and Galen. You'll be able to explain the role of Hippocrates and Galen to the understanding of medieval medicine, and we'll be able to see why their ideas survived for such a long period of time. So, who was Hippocrates? Hippocrates was a Greek doctor who taught that observing your patient and keeping daily records was very important. Hippocrates also brought about the Hippocratic Oath. This meant a doctor must do his best at all times to heal a patient and keep any illnesses confidential, i.e. not go gossiping and telling everyone about that weird boil that is found on someone. This is something all doctors still swear to today. He came up with the theory of the Four Humours, which said that the body had 4 different fluids: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. And if there was an imbalance in the amount of each humour, too much of one or not enough of one, this is what would make you ill. The doctor's job was to restore the balance to make the person healthy again. This could be achieved through bloodletting, bleeding a patient, or purging, opening something else, the bowels. Lovely. Finally, Hippocrates kept records in books of symptoms and treatments and were used by Western doctors for many years. In your notes, you need to answer the 3 following questions. Summarise in your own words Hippocrates' greatest achievements, plural. Try to use the pictures as a way of making sure you've covered everything. Which part of Hippocrates' work do doctors still do today? And if you're really going for gold, what parts of Hippocrates' theories are not as useful in today's society? Pause the video and make sure you have some answers for this. Now, Hippocrates' theory, the theory of Four Humours, is extremely important to understand for the course. The Four Humours was all about creating equilibrium amongst the fluids. Now that means balance. If you have balance within the Four Humours, then it was believed by the ancient and medieval world that you would be healthy. The theory mentioned opposites. And as you can see from the diagram opposite, if a person had a runny nose, it was caused by cold. So the patient should be treated with something opposite, which would be hot. Maybe something like pepper. If you had a cold today, perhaps to make yourself better, you do something like take a hot bath or have a hot drink. Another part to the theory of Four Humours was that the idea that each humour was associated with an element, fire, air, earth and water, and that these were strongest in a specific season in the year. And the element showed itself in the fluid which the patient had an imbalance. So if you had an imbalance in yellow bile, this would be linked with the summer, and that would be because of an imbalance in the fire in that element. The cure, make the patient vomit, of course. Again, for your notes, I'd like you to answer 3 questions. Make sure you've got really good detailed notes on this because it'll be valuable for the GCSE. So make your own copy of the Four Humours diagram. Explain how a medieval doctor would use the Four Humours to diagnose a patient. And again, if you're going for gold, have a look at this extension task. Are there any good ideas in the theory of the Four Humours? For example, if you were cold, using a hot remedy. Now, another famous ancient medical individual was Claudius Galen. Now, Galen was a later doctor to Hippocrates, who built on his ideas of the theory of the Four Humours. To learn about human anatomy, Galen would dissect animals and hung around Roman gladiatorial arenas. At the time, the church had banned human dissections, so this was the only way to learn about the insides of a human, although I don't really know how many similarities there are between the insides of us and a pig. The church liked Galen's work because it supported the design theory. Now, this was the idea that God had designed humans in his form, and therefore the insides of the body should not be tampered with. The church controlled the universities where doctors trained, and because they liked Galen's ideas so much, they protected his books and only allowed his texts to be studied. Anyone caught disagreeing with Galen's ideas would be seen as disagreeing with the church, and they could be sent to prison, as it was seen as directly challenging the institution. Again, another important individual to understand for the course. Make sure you've answered in full detailed sentences the following 3 parts. So can you summarise the achievements of Galen using the images opposite? Why did Galen's ideas survive so long in history? For thousands of years they were protected by the church. And again, if you're going for gold, what challenges would more scientific explanation for illnesses face when criticising Galen's ideas? So to finish, what was the impact of Hippocrates and Galen's ideas on medieval medicine? I'd like you to think about this question. Why did the theory of the Four Humours survive as an idea for treating illnesses for so long? Here are some pictures to assist you with the question. See if you can use all 3 in your answer. And in your opinion, did the church improve or hinder, and hinder means stop improvements, in medieval medicine? Here's an example for you to consider. The ancient Greeks had looked for rational explanations for illness. The church taught the very opposite. They believed in supernatural explanations that caused illness. People believed in God and the devil or the alignment of the planets as causes of illness. Can you think of any more? Here are our final thoughts on our video tutorial. Hippocrates and Galen's ideas were extremely important in shaping attitudes towards medicine. The Christian Church protected Galen's ideas and made it harder for people to challenge the theory of the Four Humours based on the idea of the design theory. And next lesson we'll see how in the Islamic world, where the Church didn't exclusively protect Galen's ideas, medical improvements were made at a far greater speed. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found the video useful.